afternoon and welcome back to Just Jocelyn. We would just love to discuss with you, again, I've got Ms. Paula Johnson, legislation, laws, bills, RSAs, you know, all that stuff, those words they throw at you, that sometimes get signed, sometimes they don't get signed, but we're finding quite often that these bills are sitting, you know, in drawers of desks, face down on a desk, hidden under a pile of papers, or as some lady once said, you know, wiped with a cloth, bleach, disappeared, never to be seen again. We've got some different bills and things going on up in Concord. We have them in all little cities and towns. They're just not spoken of quite as much. But these people are elected by us. They swear an oath of office. But yet, they forget about it sometimes. They tweak it. They leave out a word or two. Or we have speakers of the House that say, oh, it's fallen out of favor. Things don't fall out of favor. They're disappeared, they're erased. An extra word or two is added, a comma, a period. Sometimes it's just like, out of sight, out of mind. We, the people, cannot allow this to continue. We, the people, elect you. We, the people, give you whatever authority we deem necessary. And your job is, oh, let me think about this, defense, trade, and infrastructure. Those are the same three things that are in the federal government. That's what you're in charge of. The administrative government has expanded into the EPA, the FBI, the IRS, the LMNOP, the QRS, the, you know, my elbow, my sister, my eyeball, whatever three-letter agency they've decided is the law. Well, it ain't. Well, we're doing it for the greater good. Oh, well, could you please show me by what authority you can do something for the greater good? Wow, we want everybody to wear masks. I'm sorry. Masks have strep and bacteria. And where is your doctorate? Where's your physician's degree? Where's your science degree? And we're going to touch on, you have no lawful authority to create or enforce emergency powers. But I digress. We're going to get back to that one. But I'm just trying to point out to you, they are not in charge of our lives. They cannot dictate your lives. Our rights are our rights, and their job is only to protect our rights. And when they step outside of their job description, we have the right to remove them. We can lawfully notice them and tell you you're out of line. They don't answer, well, that becomes evidence. We then will give them an affidavit, legally certified with a little, what do you call it?
Seal.
Seal, thank you, from the notary or the JP. And then guess what? It's part of the record. We're not stupid. We're following the rules. You choose to ignore them, that's your problem. On that note, welcome Miss Paula again.
Thank you for having me again.
Oh, I'm just so excited. You know, and I'm excited because it's more and more people saying you're stepping on my rights, and it's not a nebulous thing out there that, oh, it's my right today, it's my right not today, and oh, it offends you, it doesn't offend you. Your rights are your rights, and you know what? If you're offended, too bad. That's the way it is. There is a bill that's up in Concord.
Yep.
And it's sitting on somebody's desk. And it's about the voter ID. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I have it here on my phone. Let me just read a little bit about it so
Please
people
do.
understand. It is called Voter ID Bill in Limbo in New Hampshire Senate President's Desk. He was retiring. I still can't understand. How do you retire from government?
I don't think you can. I think you resign and you're done. And there's...
You just don't run again. That's it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be part of anything, you don't run. You're done.
Yeah.
You're finished. You say goodbye to everybody when your term's up, and that's it. I've done that. A bill the New Hampshire legislature passed that would require people registering to vote to produce documents such as a birth certificate or passport, is in a kind of limbo. Okay, so let's talk about a birth certificate. It tells you where you're born, what state, if you're out of the country, what is your birthplace, natural origin.
Correct.
Or passport, it will tell you the country of origin. These requirements won't apply in the September 10th primary and may not be enforced for November 5th general election. There's a real problem there.
Yep. And before you dive into that, the primaries are to pick your candidate who goes forward to the regular election. The Republican Party is private. The Democrat Party is private. So therefore, registered Republicans and registered Democrats in a primary selection, not election. It's a primary selection for the candidate you want to go forward is private. And only registered people in their party, per the law, can choose a candidate, which is an issue in a few cases in front of the state right now.
But you got to understand, with the Democrats, they did that to Bernie Sanders with Hillary Clinton, and they just threw Joe Biden
under the bus.
You know, and they're the ones who disenfranchised their own party voters.
Well, they just disenfranchised 14 million Democrat voters who voted for Joe Biden. They just went, oh, he's going to step down. Move along, sir.
Move along,
and threw in Kamala Harris.
Yep. So who disenfranchises the voters? Let's really pull this apart.
Parties.
It's the parties, and it's the Democratic Party that tells you what they want you to do. Okay, so 3 months after Republican lawmakers narrowly passed House Bill 1569, Governor Chris Sununu hasn't signed it into law. It's not clear if he intends to sign it, but the bill hasn't even made it to his desk yet.
Because
Why?
it's sitting on somebody's desk in the Senate. Right? Okay.
Normally, routine procedures call for the House Speaker and the Senate President to sign off on a bill first. House Speaker Sherman Packard, R. Londonderry, signed Bill 1569 on July 10th, and the bill was sent to Senate President Jeb Bradley, R. Wolfboro, for his signature the same day. As of Monday, that was the 26th of August, the bill remained unsigned on Bradley's desk, according to New Hampshire Secretary of State David Scanlon. That's
56 days.
Bradley did not return a request for comment on Monday. If the bill eventually gets to Sununu, and if he signs it, the measure will go into effect 60 days later. We're past. Scanlon said he isn't sure why Bradley hasn't acted. That's a political question I can't answer, he said.
Oh, the man who is 1,000% political.
What can we say? Scanlon said he expects HB 59 to be challenged in court if it becomes law. Why are we going to challenge something like this? It's either you're a citizen or you're not. If you're not a citizen, you don't get the right, the privilege to vote in an election. You have to be a U.S. citizen.
Right.
You can't be here on a visa, or you can't be here illegally. You know, and I get really annoyed with people. They're not migrants. They are illegals. They crossed the border illegally. And I keep telling people, if you don't understand what illegal means, I say to them, let's break it down to small pieces. If you run that stop sign, that's illegal, and you hit somebody because you ran the stop sign. What's the difference? They ran the stop sign and they came into this country. I am tired of this. I am tired of paying for their food, their housing, when we have seniors and we have veterans that don't have housing. They kicked out. Enough is enough. I get really wound up about this because I'm tired of this. I saw this in New York when I left in the 70s, and it's here now. People don't hate people. People just say, if I'm an immigrant, come in here legally. My family were immigrants. They came in through Ellis Island. Let's put Ellis Island back.
Let's put a couple of them back.
Exactly.
It took my mother 25 years to become a citizen, and she was married to an American. She came here legally. She did all the paperwork. She had a green card and was called an alien for 25 years. And it took her that long for the government to say, you can be a legal citizen. Meanwhile, she paid taxes for 25 years. Meanwhile, as I'm sure your parents did, paid
And
Every
you were
single year.
Sponsored coming in here, and you had
yeah.
to have a job, and you had to be healthy. If you were sick, they wouldn't
They'd send you right back. You were turned around.
And if you want to be in this country so bad, why aren't you assimilating to our customs versus us assimilating to yours? Learn to speak English. I get it. I don't want anybody to say I'm a mean, rotten person. Granted, when my parents came, a lot of the older folks didn't speak English, but they learned the cultures and they made sure that their kids became American citizens because they fled their country from prosecution.
For what they could find here in America.
Because America is the land of opportunity. It's here if you want it. But I'm tired of paying, and I'm tired of paying for Americans who don't want to get off their duff and work. I'm tired of this. Shut down the whole welfare system. Unless you can prove why you should be able to be on the welfare system, get out and get a job and be productive in society.
Well, we also need to take the schools off the property taxes because that's not constitutional. Again, taxes go for defense, trade, and infrastructure. And that's in your state. And if you go to the federal, it goes for, foreign defense, foreign trade, and infrastructure.
And you know what I tell everybody is that when people talk about how we help other countries, I want everybody to understand something. We defend other countries' borders, and we don't defend our own borders. We have sent men and women over to other countries to fight their wars.
Their battles.
They come home with PTSD. They come home
missing
with
limbs,
or they come home in a body bag.
Correct.
And we as a country can't even take care of our own, but we send money over to other countries. I'm tired of this. And I've said to many people, even when I was on the Board of Aldermen and State Rep, what is the government? What is the duty of government?
To protect the citizens and the country.
And
Means here.
And we pay all these property taxes in New Hampshire. And you know what? If I have to pay property taxes for school, I want to see a return on my dollar.
Return on your investment.
That's right.
Yep.
And what is my investment? When Governor Sununu shut down the schools for a year and a half and these poor kids suffered mentally and in other ways.
Socially and academically.
These children who lost all that time and graduated within those 2 to 3 years, they will never get that time back.
Nope.
Never. And that's why I call them non-essential Sununu, because why would you do this to these poor children? Every child was, in my eye, was put into that category of being a poor child, not economically, with money-wise. They were put in the category that they were being poor. They were being starved of their education.
Correct. Of which we pay for. Well, actually, no. Excuse me. Let me fix that. We don't pay for it. It's taken.
Right.
And we are threatened
by the IRS.
And by the state, if you don't pay your property taxes, we'll take your house.
We'll take your house, which is my land that I purchased, and it's my house, and I paid a bank all these years for. And you're going to threaten me because of my property taxes, because the more you tax, the more you spend. So I know we're getting off on this. But I think people know, I think my audience really understands that all these things are interchangeable. They interlock, they crisscross, and we all have to be very honest about what's going on. It's for the children. Really? You just locked them down for a year and a half. They had to do education on the internet that 75% of the we've got to have internet. Well, the internet still sucks. Sorry, it still stinks. We're paying big bucks for it. Nothing's changed. It's the same thing. More and more and more money. You get less and less and less, and it doesn't matter what the subject is, whether it's adults, whether it's seniors, whether it's veterans, or whether it's children. They just like to throw the word children in front of your face as a slap in the face and a guilt trip. I'm sorry, any human being that is deprived of their rights, they're equal. There's not one any worse off or better than the other, whether it's a senior at 80 or 90 or a child at 5, 10, or 15. Everybody has equal rights, and that's what makes me upset. But people have to understand also, we as parents take care of our children to make sure they get the proper education, clothing, roof over their heads, and all that. Then when our parents get older, we're now taking care of them like they were our children. And when the government takes the funding away from these, two groups. We're in the middle, and we've got to figure out
How to pay for all three.
How to pay. Yep. And it was the worst thing. I sat on the Board of Education, and I saw what happened with the board and our children in the schools. The parents came in. We took their rights away to speak up. Mm-hmm. They shut them down. Mm-hmm. They didn't like them.
Yep. And from that point on, as a parent, as a taxpayer, they like to say you're not a parent, you don't have any skin in the game. My $10,000 a year in taxes is my skin in the game, and it doesn't matter whether I have a child in this school or not. You are taking my money and threatening me that if I don't pay that money, that I'm a bad person, that we're destroying the education. And what do? You go to a deliberative, you go to a school board meeting, and those are the two things they say. You're racist. You're transphobic. You're this, you're that. You don't have any right to make any decisions in this school. Well, good. I'm keeping my $10,000, and you can figure it out yourself.
Well, if you look,
and they turn the mics off on you.
Well, if you look and see what's happening here, the student population in Nashua has been decreasing for over 10 years.
Across the whole state.
Right.
Yep.
And the thing is, they say we're an older state. We've got more senior citizens. Nothing wrong with us senior citizens. I'm hitting 71 in another month and a half. I mean, I feel more energized than I did at 51.
Yep.
But people got to understand that we've taken parental rights away from parents in the schools, mm-hmm. and we've decided, like Hillary Clinton said, it takes a village to raise a child, back when her wonderful husband, was he on Epstein Island?
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, these pictures of him, but she said it takes a village to raise a child, but back then, I would say it take a mother and a father. I mean, now I say it takes two parents to make sure, two loving parents to make sure these children are raised properly. And so when you take parental rights away, then why do the government have the right to say what your child is going to learn, what your child's going to do? And I never allowed that to happen with my kids.
I didn't either.
And I was on the board mm-hmm. at that time too. And government should never interfere in your life. And just to bring this up a little bit more, when you talked about the CDC, I got a call yesterday from the CDC doing a survey. And they want to know if I had any children under the age of 18 in the house that might have taken the vaccines and all this. And I said, excuse me? I said, the CDC's calling me and invading my privacy again.
And asking about health information?
I said, you are the people who told everybody they had to wear a mask. And parents, I came in with studies showing how many bacterial infections were in the masks.
Yep.
And how sick kids could get.
Mm-hmm.
If we really cared about our kids didn't get COVID. That was the biggest thing. Well, if kids didn't get COVID, I kept saying to them, why aren't we opening up those schools for our children to get back
Correct.
in there? Why are we making them wear masks? There are kids that can't wear masks. We have no policy. Mm-hmm. And the school district, Nashua, had no policy. So how can you enforce something that you don't have a policy? You have to have a policy to enforce something.
But you also have to have the authority to make that policy, which none of them had, because the government has no lawful authority to create or enforce emergency powers. Period. End of conversation. I'll be putting out on my page, we have a notification. It's a notice of constitutional limits on governmental authority and the illegitimacy of emergency powers. It just went live today. And I'll be sending it to you so we can share it out. And I believe it's 16 pages.
When you say emergency powers, and here's where the problem lied.
Yep.
So Nunu decided to become the king of the state.
Mm-hmm. Which he's not.
But there was Executive Order 74 that really outlined people who couldn't wear masks and people with disability and all this, and a lot of districts and a lot of establishments and everything all over the city didn't enforce, you didn't understand that. And then the city wrote their own mask policy, but it also said if you had a medical condition, you couldn't wear a mask, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of these businesses were so afraid. And
they forced it.
They forced it.
Yep.
And they were so afraid the city was going to come in and shut them down. And I'd say, here's the executive, here's all this. The fact of the matter is that what happened to the legislature?
Where were they? That's
House
right.
of Representatives.
They closed our house.
Because people were afraid to go in there, and you had to be 6 feet apart. And nobody ever established that 6 feet apart made
Do you know
a
that was a
difference.
study by an 11 or 12-year-old that
Yes,
did a
yes.
science test?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what they went by,
by.
guys.
And so the fact that they relinquished their responsibility, gave it to the governor, nobody questioned it. Nobody said to him, okay, we're going to let you have 3 months and we'll see what happens. Make sure. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks till we flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Somehow 2 weeks turned into a year and a half, 2 years. And I would question whenever the health department came into our meetings talking about how many COVID tests and how much this and the testing.
So how
is
do
no
you
good.
test for something you never isolated, that's never been isolated ever?
And then they ran it at a higher speed
Yeah,
to make it
40, 50, 60 cycles. Yeah.
Yep. So you got what you
So you
wanted.
need to understand that, people, and they're still shoving it up your nose. There's no test. They never isolated it, and it's a virus.
And I have people calling me up and saying, my family has COVID.
Oh, God.
And I go, and my question to people are sometimes, how many shots did your family take? And pray for them with all these shots. And they're still talking about getting your boosters. And now they're talking about monkeypox. And they're talking about the bird flu. I want people to think about this now. We shut down this country for how many months because of COVID? And we never even knew
Gee,
what it
wasn't
was.
that 2020, which is just about 4 years ago? We're in another presidential election year.
Who would think? Who would think? And we shut down the whole country. We did how many absentee ballots that we can't account for? And
Where the box that they checked
right.
had 6 choices. Well, it's not. You're supposed to only have 3, and you have to check the box by one of the 3, not all of them collectively.
And so now we're in another presidential election. I said to people, how many businesses are going to fall for this again and shut down their business to basically lose their business? How many people are going to want to stay home from work again and work remotely? How many people are going to say, okay, I'm just going to give in? Well, there are people who put the masks in the car, walking in the street, that you look at and you say, I just want to say to them, please open up your eyes. You know, you fell for something that, you know, people need the germs because you have an immune system that works when you have germs. And there are products out there that helps with the spike protein from the shots that you took. And you just say to yourself, I can't believe that people are still so afraid of this. I mean, I understand there's people that have health conditions that are afraid.
That's different, right?
That's different.
But for people that are that afraid, that conforming, that will do that, that's your choice. But you're not allowed to put your fear on me or anybody else.
Give me those eyes.
You're not allowed to tell me where I stand. You're not allowed, because your fear is not my fear. And your fear cannot dictate law. And their fear cannot dictate law.
My fear became, I was one of these people that went into panic attacks thinking I'd never get out of the house. There are people who stay home and they're happy, but I'm not that type of a person. I'm the type of person, I'm always out, I'm always talking to people. People remember me. I have to admit, I don't remember everybody, but I speak to them. And we have great conversations. I talk to people at work all the time. But, you know, don't cast your fears on me.
Right.
Because I need to be out there. I need to socialize. I need to be out there.
But it's also your right to. But it's not their right or the government's right, anybody's right, to infringe upon your unalienable rights, your Bill of Rights.
So I want it, because we're going to run out of time.
So what do we need people to do?
They need to call Jeb Bradley and say, you need to sign HB 1569 and get it into law. Because we're going to miss the deadline for the primary. We want it in law.
Before the 10th.
Before the...
September 10th.
It's not good. It's a 60-day waiting, but you need to sign it now.
Well, then they should get rid of the 60-day waiting and make it immediate.
Immediate, because you've been sitting on it. But we need it in effect for the general election come November 5th.
Right.
We need
preferably September 10th to get rid of the 60 days, because you're already at 56 or 46 right now.
And you've used your time limit more than, because we want to make sure come that general election that people are U.S. citizens in this state that are voting. We don't want to take any chances again that something goes wrong with the presidential election, because we need President Trump back in more than ever now. And I'm going to put a plug in for him, and I'm going to put a plug in for Chuck Moss, because we need him as governor because he has endorsed President Trump and he has...
Well, they both are following the Constitution and what their job is in their oath of office to protect our country and its citizens.
And so if we have a governor and we have the president working on the same page, then New Hampshire is going to prosper and New Hampshire is going to get out of this recession too, because too many people can't afford their electricity, can't afford their food, can't afford their housing, their taxes on it. They can't afford their auto insurance, which is going up.
Yep.
You know, and I'm going to put a plug in for me. If you live in Nashua Ward 5, please vote for me to get back into the State House because I want to work for the people again. I want to start asking those important questions about the insurance, why we're paying so much.
So it's Paula Johnson with a P. Make sure you read through all the names and make sure it's Paula Johnson. You read all the names, don't just quick fly through. Well, again, thank you. Another exciting half hour. And everybody, you know, we are passionate. We're not crazy. We're passionate. And we believe in the Bill of Rights, our inalienable rights given to us by God, and that the law that comes from that, not administrative law, not man's law, what is legal, anything needs to be amended in the Constitution, we the people do it, 2/3 votes, and there's a proper way. And if it's not amended, it has to be interpreted the way it was written by our founding fathers. Have a great day. Hope we see you again. Get out there and vote and call Jeb Bradley. Pass that bill. Pass it now. Stop fooling around.
Sign it.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.